have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hello, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. It is the eve of Thanksgiving, everybody. Got an awful lot to be thankful for. It's that time of year where we should be reflecting on things like that, spending time with family and friends, at least those of us here in the good old US of A. I know that we have people from all over the world not celebrating that holiday, and I almost envy you. No, I'm kidding, people, but it's that time of year where family comes together. I was just telling my bobble-headed partner that I have 3 dogs staying currently at the house from 3 different places, and just a whole gaggle of family. And honestly, it's awesome, but it certainly elevates the level of stress, and it's one of those things that people come together and they bring all of the issues from past, present, and future from all the different families, and it's a challenge. I think we all realize that this time of year can be difficult. So I'm glad that I see a lot of the familiar faces in on the deck of the boat tonight. I really appreciate you all tuning in. This season, very often people they'll take off. Content creators don't always create content during the holiday seasons for good reasons, right? Because of the fact that people are spending a lot more time with family and friends and watching the classics, all of the great movies that come on these times of year, all of that. For those reasons, it's not always in the best interest of content creators to be cranking stuff out. Make no mistake, we're not content creators, right? What we do here is unique and it's different and it's important. It really is to a lot of people. And it's the last 2 days have taught me a great deal about the relationship that the lifeboat crew and the lifeboat in general plays in the lives of a lot of people. And it's awesome. It's the dream. It is what it is. It's exactly what we were hoping for. And the reason that I bring this up is to let you know that tomorrow night there will be a live feed at 6 o'clock. And if there is one person on it, there will be a live feed at 6 o'clock. We're going to be here so that we can make sure that if the blood relative parts of your family start to grind gears, then the chosen parts of your families will be here to support you and let you know that we're all here for one another. That's sort of the important thing that we do here. So people, if you happen to check on the title tonight, what I want to talk about is something that I really think is an important thing. And as we go forward into this time of year, maybe even more so. But we, you've heard us say, don't hate the hate. I'm sorry, don't hate the hater, hate the hate, right? The action and not the person. But that is something that is probably important, even if the action isn't hate. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Very oftentimes, we talk about living in the moment. We talk about the right now, right? And this is, not just for people who are sober. All over the planet, in every culture, there is a push to try to live in the moment, as opposed to concentrating on the 2 days that you can't control, yesterday and tomorrow. to really only concentrate on the day that you live in. And there have been many examples given over the years where it's better off if it's a live feed, if things are just moving by, as opposed to like a VCR where we latch onto something and let it, really start to wreak havoc in our brain and in our emotions. And I've talked about this on videos and on live feeds in the past, right? This is a pretty important concept. If we can think about the hating the hate and not hating the hater, why is that such an important thing? Well, as opposed to allowing something to fester inside the brain, right? If you judge someone's actions as opposed to judging someone, a different thing happens. Actions come and go, right? They come and go quickly. Now, if a person's actions are just consistently grinding your gears or cruel or whatever the case may be, judge them as they happen, as opposed to judging the person. Because if you judge the person, what you're doing is getting them a room, right? You're allowing that individual or that thing that is frustrating you to rent space inside your head. This becomes a serious issue. Hate begets hate, right? Hate festers. And the more hate that you've got in your life, the more it actually starts eroding at your happiness. So if a person does something and that the action of that person really does something to offend you, if you judge that action as opposed to judging that person, that's going to pass. That's one of those things that, okay, they did this, not really happy with this, this is gone, right? The action goes away. You have a much better chance of not harboring that and making it something that you concentrate on. Very oftentimes, someone does something and instantly our first go-to is, man, I hate that person, right? I hate that person. I really do. I hate them. People, words mean things, even if they're not said out loud. If it's self-talk, if you sit and concentrate constantly on, I hate this person, I hate this person, I promise you the brain doesn't really care that it's that person. What you have is just hate. And hate begins to fester and it begins to take hold. And as it starts to do that, picture a splinter. Because honestly, that's how I always have envisioned hate in the brain. It's like having a splinter. And what does your body do with a splinter? It tries to figure out a way to get it out. And how does it do that? Well, it causes infection, hoping that that infection will push that foreign matter, that foreign object out of the body. The same thing happens in the brain with hate. You get this little kernel, this little seed of hate that starts in the brain, and it begins to infect and it begins to fester and it starts to affect parts of your life that have nothing to do with that individual. You really are handing large chunks of your life over to the person that, in theory, you should want out of your life. This should be somebody that you don't want affecting you. But if you hold on to that, right, it becomes, like we've talked about in the past, it almost becomes a pet. It becomes something that is so important to you that you wake up in the morning and you start to think about the person that's been grinding your gears. You start to think about that hate in the morning and then in the afternoon and then at night. People, we would like our brains to be run not on emotion, but on intellect. This is not a foreign subject matter to the boat. We've talked about this many times. The emotional part of your brain is really, really bad at doing things like making decisions. If you start to let the emotional part of your brain run rampant, if you let it take over, then what happens is judgment gets clouded and you start to make decisions and you start to take actions that are based on what? That are based on hate. And you say, well, one thing's got nothing to do with the other. Oh, you're wrong. I promise you, you're wrong. Even if, like, let's say person A has done something to really offend you and you're harboring this hate for person A. When you start to deal with person LMNONP, you're going to be carrying that kernel of hate in the back of your mind. It's going to be sitting there and it's going to be festering. And you find that when somebody else says the smallest thing, the most insignificant thing, instantly you find yourself rising to the occasion, right? And you start to get angry, if you allow something to take hold in the brain, it's going to cloud everything else that you do. It's going to translate down into the smallest of things, and I mean the smallest of things. checking out at a convenience store and saying, have a great day, right? Just the smallest things that create ripples throughout our lives and the lives of everybody that we come in contact with. If you've got a little kernel of hate that is growing in your brain and you're holding on to it, it's going to affect how you deal with each and every person that you come across during the course of the day. There's really no need for it. I'm not saying that there aren't things that people do that are worthy of really not liking. Oh, trust me. I'm well aware of the fact that there are people out there that are going to do things and oftentimes honestly do it for no other reason than to get a rise out of you. Do it for no other reason in some cases than to hurt you, to try to cause you pain. Well, you can allow that to take root. You can allow that to become something that is going to burrow into your brain, metaphorically, right? Like a worm, to just start carving its way into every aspect of your life. Like so many other things that happen, that is a choice. I had a funny thing happen to me today. Well, I should say not funny, haha, but a funny thing. Somebody on the boat once ran into a problem, and that problem had something to do with a overdose. Thankfully, that overdose didn't take the life of anyone, but at the time, that wasn't something that we knew. This person is not on our continent. Well, to get a hold of this person, I was going to just simply go to Messenger and do what I do, right? Reach out through Messenger and talk to this individual. Unfortunately, that was the day that Meta, you all know what Meta is, right? That is the new name for Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and all of those. They were all down. You remember that day where all of that part of the of social media was down? I think it was 5 or 6 hours. Well, I wasn't going to let somebody on the boat wait 5 or 6 hours when they were dealing with, something as damaging and as important as an overdose. So I rang the person up as opposed to going through Messenger, which is free. I used my phone service. People, if I told you that over the course of 3 phone calls to talk about this overdose and to try to smooth some feathers and work with some people, that bill was over $500, right? Ouch. Doesn't even make sense, right? You know what? I don't want to misquote that. No, it might have been $400. I'm sorry, it was $400. But regardless, I mean, what are we talking about? Like $6 or $7 a minute or something along those lines. And when I got the phone bill, I went, well, this isn't possible. How is this even? There's no way this is possible. Well, once I got them on the phone and realized that, yes, in fact, this is exactly what I was dealing with, I wanted to hate my service carrier. Like my first thought was, I hate these people. How is this even possible? And I began starting to blow an O-ring. I started to really get sort of out of sorts. Now, I rang up the person who I had reached out to and said, is there any chance you could tell me the days that this phone call took place? What day was this on? Because I'm trying to get an idea of, and the person did the same thing. Oh no, it was how much money? And then there's guilt and all this. And I said, boy, you know something? This is the stuff we talk about every day on the lifeboat. What kind of captain am I if I let this thing derail me? I can't control this. I can call up the phone company. I can, but this has the potential to derail a day. I could be coming on here right now, ripped, right? Angry. But I promise you it's going to affect what I'm doing here. The smallest kernel of anger or hate that you bring into the gray matter is going to affect everything that you do. So being the guy that wears the hat, I lectured myself. And then the individual I was talking to and just said, hey, you know what? We're putting this thing in the past. There's nothing we can do about it, right? They can't make you anything. How many times have I said that? They can't make you angry. One of the greatest ways to make sure that doesn't happen is to not judge the person, just judge the action. The action that person takes is worthy of judgment, but the person isn't. And if you think I'm splitting hairs, people, I'm not. Because let's be really honest. Have you walked a mile in their shoes? Right? My dad used to say, and I've probably said this before, but my dad used to say, before you judge somebody, you should walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you judge them, you'll be a mile away from them and you'll have their shoes. Used to get a pretty good laugh out of that. But the fact is, if you don't take the time to figure out as much as you can. It's not always possible, but what is driving this person? Let's take a look at all of us on the boat. We're all recovering addicts. So you got somebody that's just treating you in a way that you don't like. The actions of this person you find reprehensible. For all you know, the person is white knuckling sobriety. As this is going on, this person is barely holding on, right? He or she is this close to relapse and hating everything in their life. Do we want to judge that person for that? Because honestly, I didn't want to be judged like that when I was at that place in my life. If there's any kind of emotion that should be set out, it's probably pity, right? You got to feel sorry for somebody like that. Now, is that the case? Who knows? But that's the point. You don't know. We're coming into the holiday season. Somebody at work starts treating you really badly. For all you know, every single person in that individual's family has said, I don't ever want to talk to you again. Don't ever call. You're not a part of this family anymore. So you start rolling into the holiday season, and he or she is literally unable to have any kind of connection with family members. We don't know, but we judge him, don't we? Instead of judging the action, we judge the person without having any idea of what's going on in that person's mind. It's not an easy thing, people. I'm not saying that this is easy. Trust me, I have a handle on this. It's a very difficult thing sometimes to judge the hate and not judge the hater. But you're not doing that to be kind to them. You understand? They may not be worthy of any kindness, but you're doing that to be kind to yourself. Because if you let this eat at you, if you let the actions of any individual start to really grind at you, it's going to damage every aspect of your life. And if you don't believe this, people, don't take Captain Tommy's word for it. Do a little research, read about this stuff. You will find that hate, the emotion, hate, can affect you physically. It's an absolute fact. It can literally affect you down to the physical parts of your life. These things cause ulcers, right? All kinds of other problems can be caused by holding on to something that never should have been held on to in the first place. And what causes us to hold on to something? Well, judging a person as opposed to judging an action. That really is a great start of having something go wrong. And I mean wrong, right? So oftentimes, where does this happen? People at work. That's always a really easy place to find someone that's going to grind your gears. Someone that really is just going to act like a jackwagon. And everything that they do seems to be almost targeted as a way to upset you. That's tough. And as we come close to the holiday season, this is going to happen more and more. Why? Because as normal, everyday human beings, certain times of year stress us more than others. It's just a fact. You know what's a great time of year on YouTube for getting new members and everything else? September. You know what's a great time of year in sales, no matter what you're selling? September, right? January. I don't care what it is, across the board. Well, why is that? Well, because we change as human beings, we change in January. Everybody does. You have this feeling of rebirth and you have this, I'm going to change my life, and everybody does it. Subconsciously or otherwise. Even if you say, well, I'm not one of those people that makes New Year's resolutions, I don't care. You're going to be different in January. As a culture, as a society, as a world, there's a different attitude in January. Well, September has always meant to us back to school, right? That time of year, as the leaves start changing, all of that, human beings start getting a back to school mentality, and we never outgrow it, ever. You can see, like in things like weight loss, people getting memberships to gyms, things like that. September and January. Those are the months that are always going to. So the reason I bring this up is there are very predictable things that happen to human beings every single year. And I'm telling you, folks, November and December bring out the worst in a lot of people. It also brings out the best in a lot of people. But if you judge the actions of people, you're going to be way better off than if you judge the people, especially this time of year. Being a convicted felon and going to prison I can't begin to tell you what November and December are like when you're incarcerated. All of the things that happened on the street exacerbated times 1,000. You talk about people on edge. Your family isn't there, right? There's none of that connectivity. And what you find is people all the time trying to reach out to their loved ones, not getting them on a telephone. If a guy calls his significant other from prison and the person doesn't answer the phone, do you think the first place their mind goes is, she probably ran to the store to go shopping, left her cell phone at home? No. Instantly, she's having an affair. Like, the brain goes to the worst possible case scenario, and these people are on edge, and fistfights happen constantly, and you're going to lose one or two people in every single prison that time of year to suicide. That's the nature of what happens in the minds of people when, under the worst of circumstances, when you come into November and December. So if you're at work and someone is just going out of their way to make you feel a specific way, right? If you feel like every action they're doing is designed to make you feel upset or to make you feel angry, there is an unbelievable amount of power in saying, I'm not going to let anybody make me anything. Just like the fun people at the phone company who I won't embarrass by name, Sprint, right? I could have gotten really angry at the poor woman who's calling me on the phone. She's just another person at the holiday season. I could jump all over this woman, but I promise you, she didn't set those ridiculous fees, right? It's not her. And she was kind enough to knock the bill in half, which was, or pretty close to in half. But the point being, as the holidays come, don't judge people. We have no clue what these people are going through this holiday season. I just gave you two examples that jump off of the page because they're so painfully obvious to anybody on the boat, right? We're all in the same boat. You know how many times in the comment section right here on the lifeboat, someone has said, well, my family is no longer a part of my life, right? I'm assembling a family. I'm choosing a new family. This is their family. Because when you spend a lot of time addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, and you make a lot of bad decisions over a period of, I don't know, in some cases like me, 3 decades, that does lasting damage. And there are family members who are just going to go like this and wipe their hands. Now, if you're fortunate and, they're forgiving and they're willing to take you back and they're willing to love you and make allowances for the things that you did, if they're enlightened enough to realize that most of the mistakes you made were not mistakes you had a lot of control over, because at that point, people, it's the chemical, right? It's the substance. The habit is doing it. It's not you. I think we all understand that because we're in the same boat, but a lot of times family isn't. So those are the two examples I bring up. But how many other examples are out there, right? We had a poor member of the boat that just let us know that they lost a family member in the last couple of days. You don't know when you're dealing with anybody if they didn't just go through the same thing. Now, you'd like to believe that under circumstances like that, people don't lash out, but can you blame them if they do? Honestly, can you blame the emotions and the actions of a person if you have no clue what's going on in their life? I realize that this is heady stuff, right? I realize that this is, we're asking people to be really, really enlightened. We're asking people to really sort of go to the next level in terms of acting like a very enlightened individual. And that's, I don't know, it's a challenge. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it's pointless or hopeless if you don't attempt it. It's hopeless and pointless if you do not at least acknowledge it in your head that when someone does something to upset you, you don't know the person and what, where they're at in life. You don't know you're not walking a mile in their shoes. You don't know all of the things affecting them and causing them to act the way that they do. I think 99 out of 100 times, if we could look at a snapshot of somebody's life, we would probably judge their actions differently. Don't you think? Honestly, the holidays are coming up. Here's a person just holding on, just trying to get through that day without using. And if they're a white knuckler, if they're a person who doesn't have a support system and doesn't have a support family, they're just doing this on their own. They are going to white knuckle it. They're going to get through the holidays. There's a pretty good chance that they're not going to treat you the way you would like to be treated. Whether or not you want to judge them for that is completely up to you. But I think as human beings, judging one another probably isn't the greatest thing that we can do. Just an opinion. Really. I think it's probably a way better thing to judge actions. Have you ever heard a parent call a child a bad boy or a bad girl? Does it upset you? Honestly, maybe it doesn't. It's always turned to my stomach. I can't stand the thought of a 2 or 3-year-old hearing that they're bad again and again and again. I mean, did they do something bad? You know, when my son took a pair of clippers to our cat when he was about 4 years old, and I came in and he had shaved 3/4 of his pussycat, I was upset, right? I didn't think that action was such a great thing. But, you know, I remember reading a book. You know, fortunately, before my son came into the world, I read a bunch of books on fatherhood, and one of them just hammered home that you just do not call a child bad. You know, don't let a kid grow up thinking they are bad. That is not something that you want to do to a child. It's just an example, folks, of how things that people say, right? The judgment of somebody and then the actions based on that judgment, instead of judging what someone has done and saying, you know what, shaving the cat was a bad thing to do. All right, shaving the cat was not so nice. This is your pet, Calhoun. You know, that wasn't a nice thing to do. That's a whole lot better than you're a bad kid. Good Lord, right? Now, obviously, this is an over-the-top example by design, because I kind of want it to go ding, right? I want to create some thought. I want you to really think about what we're talking about. Is it going to affect an adult the same way? Probably not. We're not worried about them. We're worried about you. We're worried about what judging other human beings does to you. Now, cannot do a discussion about judgment without talking about one of the most glaring things that come up with us as recovering people each and every day. We judge people who drink and people who drug. Usually it takes you about 15 minutes sober before people start that process. Man, I can't stand watching people drink. You know, look at so-and-so, he's still getting high. One of the things that makes the lifeboat awesome is that we just don't do that crap. Honestly, it's probably what I'm most proud of about this boat. I mean, yes, and there's a ton to be proud of, people. It's Thanksgiving. Mark and I have spent so much time talking about all of the things about the lifeboat that we are thankful for, the way you all support one another, you know, the kindness. The fact the default setting for most people around here is to go to the good side, not the bad side, to look on the bright side, to look at the best in people. All of that is just amazing. But the thing that tickles me the most is that if somebody comes here and says, you know what, I fell off the wagon, you know, I used yesterday. I've never seen one person go the wrong direction, not once. I've never seen someone in the comment section say something stupid. It's always been, hey, you know what, it happens. Get up, dust yourself off. Right? Just imagine for a brief moment if we went the other direction. How do you think that would work out? How about if we didn't judge the action? How about if somebody fell off the wagon, just drank once, or they just used drugs one night, and they came back the next day and said, you know what? I used yesterday, I just wanted, and you're weak. That's what you are, man. You're weak. No willpower, you're weak. How long do you think that person would stick around? For real. How long do you think the boat would stick around? How long do you think this family would be a family if we judged the person instead of the action? This is a huge, huge thing. And it's, again, we did an entire topic one day. Remember, why do sober people, why are newly sobered people hated by society? And it's one of the biggest reasons is because we become judgmental overnight. The guy that was doing beer funnels on Friday, 2 weeks later is saying, man, those alcoholic people that just, you see them partying, and it's really funny how fast, and it's human nature. It really is, people, because the life that we led, we now find disgusting, right? That's just a huge part of us now. The things that we did, like when I think about heroin, I think about someone putting a needle in their arm, or I think about any of the things that I did every single day for 3 decades, it makes me sick. Not other people doing it. the actions themselves. Makes me sick. So you kind of got to be on guard 24/7 so that you don't articulate that, because you're not going to help the person, which is our goal, right? We would like to help everybody. Anybody whose burden is drug or alcohol addiction, we would like to help them. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there. Well, if the memories of the things that you did make you ill, well, you need to get over that. You do. You need to get over it. You need to put it in the rearview mirror. And for the love of God, don't push that onto somebody else. Don't become that person who says, boy, how weak is he? What did he make it? 4 days? Oh, come on. You know what I mean? You got to be better than that. You got to be better than that. I'll tell you something else. If somebody says, you know what, I relapsed yesterday, the nice thing to say, without a doubt, is, hey, it happens. You know what else is a really good thing to say? Email me, because I'd like to ask you how it happened. I'd like to find out, even before I can judge the action, let alone anything else, before I can make any kind of a intelligent, assessment. What caused you to relapse? If you got the person on the phone and they said, you know what, I had a dog for 15 years. I got hit by a car yesterday. Well, it's a slightly different situation than I just decided to have a beer, right? You just don't know. And unfortunately, as human beings, we love to pass judgment on people before we know squat. Just who we are. It's kind of human nature. But if you're trying to be a new creation, a new sober individual, and the best you can be, you got to ask yourself, is the best you that you can be the kind of person that judges people on anything? Period. Right? Does the best version of you judge people? The best version of me doesn't. Doesn't mean I always live up to it, people. I promise you, I'm no guru. I'm just a guy that brings up subjects that we can all talk about and think about. I fall short constantly. But there are a lot of actions this time of year that are going on from people that, whether they're doing it intentionally or not, that's open to debate. But there are a lot of people that are definitely doing things that, if I don't watch myself and if I am not careful, I could allow to change my emotional state. And if I allow something to change my emotional state, I may as well turn off my intellectual state, because the one thing about my emotions is it is awesome at pushing my intellect to the back of my brain. Instead of being able to look at something and say, well, that's a pretty big phone bill. I kind of need to get these people on the phone and find out how it is possible that this much money, if I let the emotion take over, the first 3 things I say to the person who picks up the phone is going to ensure that they're not looking to help me. I promise you. I think more than likely they just would have hung up based on the language. But I can't allow my emotional part of my brain to try to mess with the intellectual part of my brain, because it will kick its butt every single time. And I need, more than anybody on the planet, I need my intellect intact, working beautifully to make decisions, because I am famous for bad decisions. For real, people. All of you who talk about the guilt and the stupid things you've done, did you ever rob a bank? Right? You want to talk about a bad decision. You ever rob, say, I don't know, half a dozen of them? Like stupidity, right? Just the worst decisions in the world. My drug of choice. Normally when people talk about drugs, when you start talking about intravenous drug use with heroin, you're hard pressed to come up with something that people find to be a worse decision in the drug world than being a needle heroin user. I don't judge. I promise you I don't. But you understand what I'm saying. Usually people say things like, well, at least he's not doing heroin or whatever. It's one of those things that always comes up, right? As it is held up as the gold standard for the dumbest thing you can do with drugs. I did it for 3 decades. I need my intellect intact. I need nothing in my brain drawing away from my gray matter making good decisions. I promise you, the best way that you can do that, the best way I can do that, is to not be a judgmental cat. Because being judgmental for me, and I promise you for everybody else, is the fastest way to become a farmer of hate, to become someone who can plant seeds of hate in your own mind like you're using a machine to do it, right? And once those things start to grow, once that hate starts to fester and starts to take hold, you're not going to be the happiest you. You're not going to be the best you. You're not going to be close to the potential that you should have, what you were intended and designed to be. If it sounds like a really tall order, it should. This isn't easy. And you're probably not going to hit it out of the park every single time. But I'll tell you something, if you're attempting to judge the actions instead of the person, then you're in a real small crowd, because the average person doesn't bother. They just instantly go to the hate default setting. That's it. Instantly hate them. You don't run into too many people who preach, hey, hate the hate, not the haters. I love the fact that we do. I really do. So along that same line, judge the action. Don't judge the person. Judge the action. You don't know what's causing it, right? All of the things I just went over. We don't know why. You're never going to know why. So why don't we just look at the action instead of looking at the person? And maybe the default setting being, I just don't know what he's going through or what she's going through. Maybe their whole family hates them. Maybe they're barely hanging on in the drug world. Who knows? But if you don't know, let's just go to the default setting of being super, super nice. Act like Chi-Chi, right? People, closing in on that time where I like to toss things over to my bobble-headed partner. But before I do, there was something else that I would like to take care of this evening. It's going to require my Homer Simpson glasses, is what it is. With any luck, these are going away, people. Going to be doing a little eye surgery, getting this knocked out of the way so that I don't have to put these on ever again. And that will cut down dramatically on the Homer jokes. But what I would like to do, people, is I would like to read a goodbye letter. This is from our friend Brandon, who, by the way, when I talk about pride in somebody getting up and dusting themselves off, Brandon is one of those cats that instantly comes to my mind. What impresses me the most about this young man is his honesty, to a fault. This is just a really honest guy. And he was honest enough to say he was struggling, and here's what happened. And when like I just said, people, I reached out to him in email and said, hey, can you walk me through what happened? And just did instantly. Not, hey, none of your business, right? Prior in my life, I told you I drank, leave me alone. Very open to try to figure out what's going on in his life, where he's at. And he's an asset to this boat. He's a good kid. He really is. I say kid. You realize I'm older than dirt and everybody's a kid to me. He's a man, but he's a young man. I remember those days last century. But he is referred to, Jack is the name of his drug of choice. And as everyone who has been on the boat for any length of time knows, his drug of choice is alcohol, but he calls it Jack. He said, hey, Jack, I thought we could be friends, but you took me to a dark road. You were there when my friend died from cancer, and I couldn't show how I felt. I was buzzing with you. That really wasn't cool, man. If I'm sad, you were always there knocking at my door. You were at my door for steps for a year and a half, and I don't like what you've become. The day that I found the lifeboat, I realized that I have a problem. And now I know what I have to do to put you in my rearview mirror. So I want you to know, Jack, this is goodbye forever. I have found new friends on the lifeboat. This is over. I'll tell you what, people. Brandon, man, I love you. I really do. That's from the bottom of my heart. I am so proud of the honesty. People, when I said I was the most dishonest person in the world, this is what I couldn't do. I couldn't, if I hit a bump in the road, if I relapsed, if I made a mistake, I disappeared. I got away from every single person I knew. And if they were clever enough to track me down, I would put my hand on a stack of 30 Bibles and I would swear on the life of my mother or anything else that I didn't relapse. I was incapable for 3 decades of being honest about my use. And this was in a situation where I was looking at the person. You know what I mean? It's like the old song where the guy gets caught and says, "It wasn't me." You know what I mean? It wasn't me. I could have them find me with a needle in my arm and I would lie about it. It's just who I'd become, but it's so impressive to me that we live in a virtual world, right? This is a virtual boat. And he comes walking back in and says to everybody who can't see what he did, all he had to say was, "I wasn't around last night. Had to work late." Nobody would know the difference. This is somebody that wants to be their best self. I'm proud of you, Brandon. I really am. I'm proud of you. You're an asset to have on this boat. And I'm not sure I could be more proud. I really mean that. And the fact that you're getting this, the fact that you're understanding this and becoming the best you can be at your age, if I could put into words how awesome that is, that you're not 46 saying, I knew 20 years ago, because I was never delusional. I knew when I was 20 that I needed to get it together. I just didn't do it until I was 45. So, look at this. I've got Brandon. We love you. We're proud of you. This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful, like you don't know, that you're getting a hold of this and that you realize exactly what it takes to be the best you that you can be. Honestly, this is the reason there's a boat, and nothing that you could do could make me more proud of you than the level of honesty that you've showed this boat through this entire process. God bless you, brother. I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. All righty, people. He's doing his business. And a shout out to you as well, Mark, because I can sit down and I can do a video, right? And even if I screw up, which I've been doing a lot lately, and it takes me 3 or 4 takes, it's going to take him 10 times longer to edit it and make me look good. And there aren't words for how much I appreciate my partner and what he has brought to this boat. We wouldn't be where we're at. Mark, how are you today?
Oh, I'm living. Walking the walk, man. Just trying to.
I love it.
Staying positive, trying to, and I think like we said multiple times, it's just it's a hard time of year for, especially people like us that fight stuff like this. I'm not saying anybody else has it any easier. I'm just saying that with what we do, it's just what we've been through and what we have to deal with is a little bit harder. And let me give you a little bit of positivity back there too, though. I will say, because I am a person that's been in recovery for quite some time, 10 plus years now. It does get easier. Okay, guys? It really does. I think we need to make sure we understand that. Yes, we talk about early recovery a lot because that is the most critical time. Just understand that there is a goal there, and the goal is to make it. It's never going to go completely away, but the goal is to make it so quiet in your mind on that part of it that just every once in a while it might tick at you, right? Because that's really where I'm at myself. Just to be honest, I try my best not to think about certain things, and I've learned how. Well, I'll just put it to you this way: my brain has made new roads. It has at this point. And it just takes a while. So don't get discouraged. I think Cindy was talking about in the chat there, she's fighting alcohol and stuff like that. Listen, you said you didn't think it was, all that big of a deal, and you kind of felt a little crazy about that. Listen, you cut back a little bit. That's a step forward. That's a victory. It really is. I seen that 7th. Thanks, brother. Yeah. So anything that you're doing that's moving you forward, you need to make sure that in your brain you're telling yourself that's a good thing. Be proud of that, right? We just can't. You gotta. We so much focus on what we've done and the negative part of what we have done. But sometimes we don't cut ourselves a break, and most of the time we're harder on ourselves than anybody else. And that right there, that one specific thing right there will lead you straight back to the bottom. You'll start feeling guilty, like we talked about yesterday. All those emotions will start rolling back in if you can't focus on the good things you're doing. One good thing will wipe away 5,000 bad things. I promise. It just really will if you focus on that, and it's about that. The focus has to be in the right direction, and understand that we're human. We will make mistakes, and that's what happens. And obviously, those of us, Tommy was talking about being a liar, that kind of a thing. Anybody that's been in drug addiction or addiction at all, or even a teenager, you know that we were the best at that. I mean, that's just what it was, or we couldn't have succeeded doing what we were doing. And so that is one of the biggest things. Just be honest with yourself, right? That's where it has to start. If you're honest with yourself, saying, hey, I'm a liar and I know it, then you can move forward from there. So, and again, that's another thing that does not get fixed overnight. You're going to consciously have to tell yourself not to lie, because your brain is now, that's its default. Even on little things. I'm talking like little things that mean absolutely nothing. You will catch yourself lying about those things just by habit and just by your default setting in your brain. And I really truly do think that is a big thing. As soon as you can start correcting that, the rest of the stuff that we talk about starts to fall in line, because now you have accountability. And, because you're holding yourself accountable. And when you can do that, that is such a big step. And I know people say, you can move forward once you recognize you have a problem. Well, yeah, you can, but you have to take an action there. Just because you recognize it doesn't mean you're going to move forward with it. You have to act on that. And it goes back to the actions, what we're talking about here. It really does. And the actions are very, very important, guys. I could sit here and tell you all day long, hey, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I could be doing the exact opposite. And nobody would ever know it. I would, though. Right? And then it starts picking at you again. Then the guilt comes in. Then all that stuff starts rolling downhill. You see how that works? And what I'm saying is you have to be honest with nobody else but yourself. Okay? And I get it. The lying thing, that in itself is a habit. That's almost an addiction for some people. It's kind of like a kleptomaniac. People that like to steal stuff from the store for no other reason than just to steal it. They get a high off of that. It's kind of similar to that. But, so yeah, and again, guys, this is a tough time of year. There's no way to say it. And I know that this is a positive time also. So build those new memories. Assert yourself back into your family functions if you're ready to do so. Okay? Even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. That kind of stuff can get things going that direction. Even if you have to go to a family get-together and be like, hey guys, nice to see you. I ain't feeling good. I'm going to bounce out here in about 10 minutes. Even if you have to do something like that, the fact that you're showing your face there is doing a couple things. You're actually putting yourself back into normal life with your family, plus you're showing them that you're making an effort to be a part of that again. And that will help build, and it'll help repair those broken bridges. It really will. It starts small. It really does. So don't like overshoot thinking that it's all going to be fixed in one go round. We can all go back to conversations that I've had with my family. When people are trying to help me and say, hey, come on back, do this and do that. Yeah, those are all great things, but it still doesn't fix it immediately. It's still up to you to do that action. And what Tommy's saying here is, judge that action. Don't judge the person behind it. because sometimes when we do these actions and when we do things, we've been doing them for so long, it's become our default, and we're working on it. So let's not forget that other people out there are doing the same thing. And let's not forget that our family, most of the time, is not intentionally acting the way that they seem to be. It's just, yeah, it's a really, really good thing to step back and say, hey, is it me? Is it them? Or is it the action? And most of the time, you're gonna land on it's going to be the action. Because that's what you're doing. So if you can correct that, what happens? A lot of the problems just go away. It really does. As soon as you can start adjusting your actions and all those. And again, let me say it one more time. It is a slow process, guys. It's nothing that's going to get fixed overnight. And I know that sounds kind of daunting for a lot of people, but it's also positive because realize you don't have to do it all at once. It's one of those things that's going to take some time and you can work on it. And most families, most people that you love are going to allow you to have that time. Especially if you tell them, hey, be accountable to them in a way also by saying, hey, this is a positive thing I did. I know you don't see the whole big picture, but I moved forward here a little bit, and I'm trying to progress forward a little bit at a time. A lot of people, if you don't verbalize that to people that don't understand what we're going through here, they're not going to understand what you're doing. So you have to sometimes go back to the basic elementary of what we talk about and let them have that moment of you telling them. So, and I'm sorry about the little rant here. It's just a big thing for me. It really is. The holidays is such a tough time. And for me, because when I first got help, it was New Year's. It was like 2 days before New Year's Day. I think I told you guys this. I was in rehab when 2012, when the world was supposed to blow up and we were all going to die. But yeah, that's, I remember that specifically because of that reason. And I had to miss New Year's with my family, because I was there. But, again, it's small stuff. And at the beginning, you're going to find that the steps that you do take are actually going to kind of seem bigger than what they do at the end of it. Or as you start moving further and further into recovery. Because when you first start, like the biggest thing that you're going to do is stop doing what you're doing, right? Your drug of choice. That's the biggest step you will ever take at the beginning. And then you can start repairing yourself little at a time. Repair those relationships that you have with people and all of that. It's just, yeah, Saigon Y2K, baby. That was an interesting time, wasn't it? But yeah, I think I sent Tommy over a phrase that I came across. I guess I could read it real quick. It's
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Huh?
I said, no, you're not.
I'm not? Oh.
I'm just kidding you. That was what I was closing with. Knock yourself out. You're there.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ed. No,
this is people. This is one of the all-time great quotes. As I was telling Mark earlier, what I was doing, it really is one of the greats. But as soon as I'm done with this, there's a couple of things I wanted to say to. No, I'm going to do it first. Cindy Lamb, listen, what Mark just said is so key. This journey that we're on, so many times the sobriety and the perfect life gets held up like it is the finish line of everything that we're doing. And it's not. For so many people, hell, for all of us, it's the starting gate. So as you're going through this and you feel like you're stumbling or you're doing whatever, the goal isn't sobriety. The goal is living your best life, right? We say it all the time. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, right? Once you get sober, you're just chemical free. We're talking about really and honestly building the best life you possibly can. And it is a process. It is a long one. And as long as, you celebrate the victories, the first victory is saying, I got to get clean. Honestly, the first victory is just stepping up to the plate and saying, this really is not a life I can continue to live. And quickly, Saigon Cinnamon said, you know what? I'd rather hurt someone's feelings than tell a lie. I'm to the point where I just do not lie. I love that, Saigon. I mean, we can church it up a little to be nice, but the truth is always going to be the best bet. And I think that as people get sober, it's such an important thing. You know what I mean? It really is. And everybody sort of feels that. But when Cindy came out and started to talk, I literally could not find a person in the comment section that didn't say, we're here for you, or say some version of it. Seventh Son came in and said, his take, he said, look, one day at a time, and sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. And every single person here came to the support. And I love that. But make no mistake, if we're talking about Cindy, as we look for this entire process that we're talking about of you getting sober and living your best life, what we would hope everybody across the board would always think is that, you don't judge my story by the chapter that you walked in on, right? How cool a concept is this as a quote? Do not judge my story by the chapter you walked in on, and I like to add, or out, because so many people in our lives walk out of our lives during a chapter when we're using or we're abusing ourselves or treating others in a way that isn't really the best that we've got. Don't judge my story by the chapter that you walked in on or the chapter that you walked out on. Cindy, don't judge yourself, right? Don't judge your story by this chapter. This is the beginning of the coolest journey in history. Is it easy? Hell no. Nothing worth anything is easy. But this is the greatest journey that you could ever be on, because self-discovery and everything else that takes place, sober people, the people that have been there, done that, and gotten sober are the kindest, the gentlest, the most loving, and the most understanding people that I've ever met. You're in a really, really good group of people that truthfully care about you. I'm proud as hell of you. I really am. I'm also proud of Mark. Is that not the coolest quote you've ever heard? He sent this to me in a message on my phone. I got to read this one more time, man. I really do. To me, this is the coolest thing ever. Do not judge my story by the chapter that you walked in on. Man, I love that.
Yeah,
I really do.
When I seen that, I was like, wow. It hit me too. And I was actually making the thumbnail for this video when I come across it. That's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, that is just absolutely awesome. It really is.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, I am the Noise Opera.
Yep.
Says hello, everyone. I am good. My internet connection isn't the greatest. British Columbia is a mess right now. We know that, my friend. We were all paying attention. We were all praying for you and sending positive energy. Everybody here knows the story, my friend. We talked about it every day, but it is awesome to see you on the boat where you should be. And we hope that you're taking care of yourself and you're staying safe. I know that it's a tough time up there, and that people still need thoughts, prayers, and support. That is it's a mess. Really rugged thing that's going on there.
Oh, Thier wanted me to remind you of the Vegemite thing.
You know what?
She wanted me to tell you, so I'm just relaying the message.
Poor Charlie Mullins, right? I know that Charlie had some Vegemite mailed to him, and there's been no confirmation, but I understand that his left arm actually fell off when he ate it. It's just kind of the rumor that I heard. One bite, left arm just dropped to the ground.
Oh my goodness!
I got to say that I'm not surprised. That stuff is just not for human consumption. Saigon Cinnamon, if you're getting off, good night, my brother.
Yep, good night, brother.
Thoughts and prayers with you and with your son. People, this is the night before Thanksgiving, and tomorrow morning we're going to be here. This is what we do. I'm not missing Christmas. I'm not missing New Year's. We're going to be here always in case somebody needs us. You know what? In a perfect world, no one will. In a perfect world, every American is going to be with their families tomorrow, and they're all going to be happy and in great shape and not need any support from anybody. But if that's the case, then Mark and I will be here alone telling stories, because there's no chance we're ever going to let that go. Cindy Lamb says it's all about perspective. I understand, Tommy, and you too, Mark. Good, Cindy, because we love you. We really do. Sister. And then Fiona Crispin said something ridiculous. Oh, she said it's salty and delicious. She's talking about peanuts. is what she's talking about.
Man.
It's
Anything
a
that-
peanut reference.
Anything that's derived from yeast is typically not good. Usually, you got to get
Right.
like I said, you got to go get like a 3 or 7 day treatment for stuff like that.
If you look under a microscope, it's moving. It was the first thing they showed us in science class. You look underneath the microscope and that stuff is crawling around. You go ahead and enjoy that.
Hey,
I'm
Andrea,
gonna,
good to see
stick
you.
with- Yeah, everything that I eat is going to be already no longer living. That's kind of how I roll. Brandon, thank you so much. Brandon Calloway, we're proud of you, my brother. We really are.
Yep.
To each and every person here, for those of you in the United States, if by some chance we don't see you tomorrow, have a great Thanksgiving. We love you. For those of you in other countries, we will see you here tomorrow. Between now and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, when we put up the next video, you have but one assignment, people. It's to reach out and to try to save somebody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
alrighty, people, have a great night.